Hi,
Hi.
Kristal.
Hi, Kristal. I'm sorry about that technical glitch.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It happens to all of us. We lose track of all the Zoom links. It's fine.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Lovely to meet you. We met at the webinar 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sorry, there were like 50 people on that call, so I was trying to like piece everything together.
Yeah.
But thanks for reaching out. Nice to
Okay,
meet
lovely.
you more one-on-one.
No, lovely. Thank you. And they're hoping that there's a million viewers out there on our YouTube. We'll be
Hope
listening
so.
to this conversation. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, Kristal, just to get on it, I don't know how much time you've had to check us out a bit, but if not, I can just give you a brief background of who am I, what do I do. I'm the founder of an entity called the Stokvel Academy. Our love of life is Stokvels in South Africa. Because Stokvels play a very important role in terms of community development, especially that savings culture. So what we've been doing over a number of years, we've been doing marketing campaigns within the Stokvel communities. And in the past 5 years, I felt that we need to actually use the Stokvel concept as a tool to actually help Stokvels to do things for themselves, like starting a business so that they can create jobs and all that, Yeah. So when I met you at the webinar, I felt that maybe this is, an ideal time to also have a conversations about youth within the Stokvel, because the main participants or the perception is that Stokvels are for older people. When you say Stokvel, imagine just to see MamBusi. And yet MamBusi has been part of a Stokvel since 1981. So if you look back,
You were a youth when you started.
I was a youth when I joined my first Stokvel in 1981. So here we are today, 2022. I'm still part of the Stokvel conversations. And the next question should be, MamBusi, what have you done with your life within the Stokvel as a youth and now? So that's the conversation that I would like to have with you within the context of what you do in Youth Capital.
Sure. I mean, I'm just going to let you lead and I'm just going to go with it. So yeah, ask me questions or where you want me to start and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, no, thanks for that opportunity. Yeah, looking at Youth Capital, what I've actually checked out is that you are trying to actually create different links, platforms, for job creation for the youth, which we all understand and we should embrace, because we are in a crisis in South Africa in terms of youth unemployment, and I must really commend you for that. So my question to you, besides looking for a job as a youth, I know we all have to go to school, study, get a job. That's what our parents told us to do. What is your view in terms of the youth also looking at creating business opportunities for themselves so that they can create jobs for other youth? So what's your take on that one?
Sure, Busi. So I think what we always say at Youth Capital is for young people to create sustainable livelihoods for themselves, whether that's being employed or creating a job. That journey starts long before that person starts a business or that person looks for a job. That journey, as you say, starts in school already. So I think, there are young people that are called to be entrepreneurs. And I think if you're a young person, you know that at school level already. And so I would say to young people, why do youth businesses fail? It's because young people don't have any experience. They've never had a job themselves. Nobody in their household has a job. They don't know, they don't have a business mentor, simple things like, balancing the books, financial literacy on how to, spend your money, what comes in, how it goes out. All of these things young people need support on. So I would say to young people out there, find a business mentor. Funding obviously for your business is one thing, but you can have all the funding in the world. If you don't have somebody who can show you the ropes, give you insight, you are doomed to fail. And, to older people listening, be that business mentor to young people. It doesn't have to take up hours of your time. It can be 1 hour a month. But that still can make a fundamental difference in one young person's life. It could be the difference between them having a successful business, which then employs more young people, or a business that fails. And so you can really have impact just from using 1 hour of your time. And I think people think of this youth unemployment problem as a huge insurmountable challenge because of the numbers, and a lot of the advocacy work is aimed at policy level, because that's, there's a lot of policy that needs to shift. But I think there are things that everyone can do to address this crisis in their own way. And I would say to young people, I think often starting a business is from a place of desperation, because people can't find work. And that's the reality, unfortunately, of, having such a huge youth unemployment rate, is that many young people are driven to it as a last resort. It's not their first choice. And so I think if you find yourself in that situation, where you think like, this is my only chance to, create some kind of income for myself, then I think you're going to need that support even more, because it's not something you've been thinking about for years. It's not something you've been called to since you were a teenager. You're now at a point of desperation. And so I think that support's even more important, and connect with, and to say to those of us who are older and have more resources, and by resources, I mean networking, right? So you need businesses need customers, whatever your business is. You need access to markets, you need access to inputs and, ways of selling your product, or getting if you're not selling a product, or you're selling a skill or a service, you need ways of getting that out there. And I think then partnering, a Stokvel is such a unique space for that, because as you say, it's intergenerational. You have people from the community across all ages who all have some value to add. And so I think to really draw on that community as you try to set up your business, so that you have customers, you have links to maybe a good deal on, something that you need for your business, somebody who can help you with a computer, somebody who can help you set up a website, somebody who can help you set up the Facebook page. I think that community spirit that exists in a Stokvel can be really useful to a young person who is trying to start out with their own business.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a mouthful, Kristal, actually. You've just hit, the nail on the head. I love the coaching mentorship part of it, because, I think youth by nature, they tend to know everything and they don't know much. So, and they've got great ideas, amazing ideas. They just want to get started with it. I was having a conversation with my son a few weeks ago, and I said to him, because he's completed his studies, he's a musician, he wants to go into business, he wants to buy this and that and that. I said, you know what? We can buy the most expensive equipment under the sun, but if you don't have the basic business skills to run your business, that equipment is not gonna be worth anything within a short space of time. So I literally dragged him into one of Action Coach sessions. I said, terms and conditions, if I were to be supportive to you, you have to go through the Action Coach route. Because if I had gone through that route myself, when I started business in 1998, I would be retired by now. But
that's the dream.
Definitely, that's the dream. But the reason why it is a dream that is not fulfilled, because I did not know some of the business fundamentals. Yes, I've done very well. I started the business in 1998, and I'm grateful for all what I've achieved. But I still feel, when I look at myself now, there's things that I could have done better if I had a business mentor, if I had a coach. So I'm so happy that you actually touched on that one, that as we motivate, inspire these youngsters to create jobs for themselves, we also need to ensure that they also embrace having a coach around themselves. And I know we always say, but no, I can't start a business because I don't have money. And I'm told the funding is actually one of the least things that you should worry about. Of course, you do need money to start a business. So I think you and I, we are in sync, we're in agreement to say that youth get mentorship action coach. Look at here, we met at the action coach webinar.
Exactly. Action coaches work is amazing, which is why we, partnered with them and always looking for ways of engaging, because their support of small and medium-sized businesses is right up our alley. We're not going to address the youth unemployment crisis looking to big corporates to absorb all of these young people, looking to government to absorb all of these young people. We really have to support small businesses to be able to grow. And like you said, that all starts with one young person possibly deciding to go that route, and just having the right support to make that a success, I think, is so important.
Definitely. Another important element that you mentioned is, access to markets. We've always had people saying, I've got this amazing product, or service offering, but I just don't have a market. So from a Stokvel concept perspective, a Stokvel is a community. In fact, the term that we use now is the Stokvel community and different generations. So already you have a market within the Stokvel, whatever the product that you are offering. So if you can just reach out to other Stokvels, be it your parents, be it your neighbors, be it your colleagues, be it your friends, because that's the beautiful thing about Stokvels. Stokvels are not just limited to certain people who stay in a certain area. It's a whole community at work. I know people who actually have work Stokvels, they work together. I know people who've got Stokvels because they are professionals, nurses and teachers, So, and they collect money. They save this money for various things. That money should also be we should talk about generational wealth creation. The adults who have been there for the past 20 years, saving money, paying for school fees and all that, they should now say, wait a minute, how can we as a Stokvel start a fund to help our children to start their own businesses, and in turn, we support those businesses.
Absolutely. I think, that's the thing. We mustn't assume that the business needs to look to people out there, or some, in some big city center to be successful. Yeah. As you say, Stokvels are not just a physical community, it's kind of a virtual community, which is a word we've become very familiar with COVID. But, people with, again, like I said, different resources. So funding is the one thing, but who in the Stokvel has this, a skill that can help that young person? Is it teaching them, like I said, how to balance their books? Maybe somebody has experience with that. Somebody else who started a small business, or maybe their business failed and now they can tell a young person, these are the mistakes I made. Don't make the same ones. It doesn't have to be a successful story for it to be a lesson for a young person. So I think that's also important to highlight.
Actually, just maybe towards wrapping up our conversation, touching on failure, because always when we talk about business motivation and all that, we always want to paint this glorious picture that everything went well. I started in 1998 and we don't normally talk about failure case studies, And one of my favorite failure case studies within the Stokvel context, it's my husband's Stokvel that he joined 38 years ago. So again, it shows that it's a youthful conversation. So fast forward 10 years after they started this Stokvel, they realized that they had saved so much money that they were ready to go into business. And they did a bit of research and they explored about 3 types of business, and then eventually they settled for one. And this specific one, it happened to be a funeral undertaker, because funerals business is a big thing. I always say funeral is not a dying business, especially in our community.
Exactly.
It's definitely not a dying business. Yeah. So they went for this funeral business, which unfortunately, they had not done enough research. They did not surround themselves with, people who could coach them, guide them through. And I'm sad to say that they lost more than R1 million in starting that business. Because within a short space of time, they realized that they were in a wrong location, because, that kind of a business, it's more of a community, who you are, who do you know in the community and all that, you see. So they were moving from one area to, all out to Tshwane, they're based in Soweto. So I'm not saying you can't expand from Soweto to Tshwane as an example, but you have to start within an area that you are much more familiar with, and then you understand the dynamics and all that. So yes, we need to teach our youth that failure is one of the key characteristics of a successful business.
Absolutely. You know, I'm not a small business owner, but my husband is. And I mean, he just started his practice 2 years ago now, during COVID. So you see, it's possible even in adversity to do these things. And it's not easy, you know, doing business in South Africa is not easy. I think we all know that. But I think, you know, again, for young people to feel surrounded and that failure is okay. I think, you know, young people come from places of learning where failure has a lot of stigma. You know, if you fail a subject, you fail a grade, you fail matric, you drop out of your tertiary studies, this comes with a lot of stigma and a lot of shame for young people, and this idea of failure is really difficult. And I think that's often, you know, young people will start a business and it will fail, and they'll be so shameful that, you know, it failed or they lost all this money that they just won't try again. And so I think for young people to understand that, as you say, failure is part of the business. And you know, I was reminded now of my background. So, you know, my undergrad studies and my first bit of work, my working life was actually as a scientist. And so, you know, in the lab, any result is a result. If the experiment fails, that tells you something. If you get no result, that tells you something. And if you get the result you're expecting, then that tells you something. But, you know, there's all these different routes too, and you learn something no matter what the outcome is, I think is an important message to take away from this. So even if the business does fail, why did it fail? What did you learn from it? How can it help you, whether that's in the next business, or if you choose to say, actually, that's not for me, I'm going to go and look for a job rather. What did you learn from that experience? And to say that failure is okay and it's a part of life and we all fail repeatedly. And that, yeah, if we have a community around us supporting us, then that failure feels a little less painful, I think.
No, thank you, Kristal. And then just in closing, what would you like to share with your youth brigade under the Youth Capital Movement?
Sure.
About Stokvels? What's your take? You know, I know you probably don't have an in-depth knowledge or understanding of Stokvels, but you do understand the concept. Just in closing, what would be your key message to inspire youth that are part of the Youth Capital?
Sure. So, you know, Youth Capital is an advocacy campaign, as I say, and a lot of the work that we do is really aimed at like high-level policy or big decision makers. And this, you know, the idea of a Stokvel really takes it down to community level, and that's where young people are. And so, you know, to the young people, as you say, to feel like you can be part of these Stokvels, whether it's a way of saving money, because it's hard to save money when you don't have a job and you don't have an income. It's a way of saving money and having a group that you're accountable to, for whatever purpose the group is created. And I think to see the value in having intergenerational people in your Stokvel, as we've mentioned already, and to say to young people that, you know, the journey to creating a thriving adulthood, as we say it, you know, where you're a thriving adult and you have some kind of income, is exactly that. It's a journey and it doesn't happen overnight. And I think being part of these Stokvels and the community that you get from that can be really helpful in your support along that journey. We know that having one supportive adult in a young person's life can make a huge difference to the educational outcomes, but I also think beyond that. And so to say to young people to draw on that community, social networking and social capital is, you know, it's a resource that you can't quantify, but it actually could make all the difference to your small business. And a Stokvel is one way of increasing that social capital. So I think that's it from me. Closing.
Thank you very much, Kristal. Thank you very much. And I hope our viewers out there, especially the young generation, because those are the ones who are really itching to make their lives better, to improve their lives, to improve their families, they would actually take this conversation and build generational wealth for themselves. At the Stokvel Academy, we subscribe in the philosophy that says it is about wealth and wisdom. And that's what we subscribe to.
I like
and
that.
Thank you very much. And yeah, and keep well. And to the viewers, please subscribe, and follow us on all the social medias. And thank you very much and keep well, Kristal.
You too. Thanks, Busi, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a lovely day.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.